Good evening, everyone, and happy Monday. It is Chasing the Puck Live. We are back in 2025. We had a couple of weeks off, a lot bit of hockey going on while we were away. Had a chance to recharge the batteries, spend time with the family, and depend on which household you live in, really celebrate a win on Boxing Day. But then obviously some teams get a win a couple of days after. But no, it's been great. It's been good. We've had a lot of fun and it's good to be back. Feels like it's been a good couple of weeks. Obviously, one of the things that we just wanted to start off on is the passing away of Steve Brodie from the news that hit earlier on today with Telford Tigers photographer. For them, his thoughts go out to his family and everyone within the organisation, of course. Circumstances of that. And of course, with it being Alex's Graham birthday as well, for his family and everyone in the hockey community. It seemed like obviously the day of all days to start with those things, and obviously thoughts to everyone over that time. So we are back for a new year. Yes, the beard is there. It's a little bit brown, it's a little bit ginger, and a little bit grey. So depending on how hockey treats me in 2025, you might just see the full Santa look for the Christmas special 2025. But you never know. Who knows? If you're watching this on YouTube or listen to the podcast later in the week, we do appreciate you taking the time to spend it with myself. Of course, obviously, keep an eye on social media because Team GB are playing Croatia in the under-20s. So obviously, if anything big happens or anything like that, keep a look as well. Once you finish watching this or you're watching on demand, depends what you're doing. Enjoy the game, of course. It's 0-0 at the moment, last time I checked. So we'll keep an eye on that. So, yeah, one thing that we wanted to do this year was try and get everyone involved a lot more, because that's the thing is I front face, do the rink tour, do Monday nights, and, really just whatever falls into the top of my head. But one thing that we really wanted to do is get people engaged and, have thoughts of what they wanted to do and bring the questions a lot more. People did questions in 2024, but it's one thing that we really want to go big and hard on in 2025. So we asked, what was the first topic of conversation that people wanted us to start with? And the majority of the vote went for Fife. And the first question I got was why Fife Flyers are so crap this season. Whoever sent that in, thank you very much for the question. Straight to the point. No foreplay on that one. That's straight into it. So, we had the opportunity to speak to Tom Coolin in the summer, had a really good chat and, the thoughts and processes that he was doing from season one coming in and everything that he did and how fortunate he was with the roster that he had brought together, the Kazakhstani players that he brought in, the speed, the youth that he was bringing to the table. He had thoughts that, this team would break into that top 4, top 6 and then getting into the playoff berth as well. And that's the thing with hindsight, you can look at it now and it's one of those circumstances where I just feel for the organisation, I feel for the fans, I feel for everyone involved in it. It's a difficult one because we err in the side of, I would say parody or the lighter side of hockey. We try to do some good as well in between, but the moments that we do. And, people can laugh at a dip in form of a team like Sheffield or Belfast or Cardiff or any of those teams. But for a team that is in the livelihood of being a group of people that, a community and a team that the love of the game is there in Fife, and I have said this, I really enjoyed my time doing the rink tour in Fife. And, I was very fortunate for the people that I got to meet and the people got to talk to over those couple of days. And it does pain me. It really does pain me to see, we talk about this season, how you want them to be and how you want them to proceed. And, a lot of talk is about, someone has asked a question about promotion and relegation in the Elite League and the National Leagues and stuff. But As of right now, any performance that team does, Curran coming in, being his coach at that time, them getting special dispensations, bringing in the two ways, having the bands being pushed to the side so they can play to have an affordable chance to play. And I watched the game against Guildford on Sunday, and admittedly, I was watching it between Ted Lasso at the same time, so obviously I was up and down with what I was watching. And every time that I watched it, it just seemed that a barrel of bad luck just came through. And I know everyone talks about the hockey gods and puck luck, but I struggle sometimes. The get up and go that team have. That whoever they're playing, if it's in the higher echelons of the league or lower down the table, is that there's no respite really. There's numbers that they've got, the way that they're playing, the penalties they're taking, getting a penalty shot and then missing it, get goals getting disallowed and just everything going against them is sad. And you feel like this year is pretty much try and get through the fixtures that they can, bring people in. And I know we've discussed this before, but whatever they do now, even if they can get someone in for a year and a half and say, get a contract, get someone in place and say, you've got half a season, show us what you can do. Have a break clause in it, in the contracts, if it kind of feels that way. If you do well and someone comes a snap in, we can kind of look at it through there and do it that way. Obviously, as everyone can see, GB have scored. I can prove that obviously if it comes up a post saying GB has scored, it's nothing to do with me. I haven't typed it and I am live. So I wonder how that's happened. Who knows? But yeah, you got to look at Fife. I think this year they just need to get through it. They beat Sheffield when they did. They've got some really hard games week in, week out. The bodies, they've got a new body in the door. Will they get more bodies in the door in the next couple of weeks that they can do, which they're obliged to by the league to get the numbers in? Yeah, of course. But going into another question that someone has asked about why is there so many more injuries? I'll talk in a Vega as many as I can, but how demoralising it must be for Fife that, how many minutes they're playing, how many minutes on the board, on the ice that these players are getting, the two ways, the imports, where nothing's bouncing for them, from a mental point of view. And this is one thing that I'm a big champion of, a big advocate of, is, how tough it must be to go every single night. We always joked about the bus legs and the travelling, but knowing that you're going to be short bench going against a team that, you look at Guildford on Saturday, how toothless they were against Steelers, and they look like a different team reborn on Sunday. Playing a team that, the confidence isn't there, and it must be really difficult. I thought about this the other day because I was thinking, who did I want to interview in 2025? Which would be good interviews and people to discuss and have a conversation with? Obviously, of course, in the comments and messages, if you want to send us people that you'd like us to interview in 2025, it'd be really good to hear your thoughts. And it just dawned on me that I couldn't think of a single person in the Fife locker room or organisation that you'd want to talk to, not because it's not an interesting story, but when a team wins, I've had the luxury of speaking to players that are in a good position in the league, that are doing well, putting points on the board, and then other players that are in a funk and aren't in the best place. And how difficult it must be to answer those type of questions, of that understanding of, you've got to toe the company line. You've got to make sure everything that you say isn't misconstrued or can be interpreted. And it must be the toughest thing for them to, believe in the system, believe in the, the support of the fans, which of course they do, and be representative of it. But it must be so tough for them to do it and just be in a position where a team that's struggling. We're now in January, there is going to come a point where I will have to probably give my predictions of who's going to win the league, the Challenge Cup and the playoffs. I can't hold it off much longer, because sooner or later you're going to just say that I'm just showing favouritism in the last minute. Who knows? and it's sad. And Anthony just said it there. Five just want to hug them at the end of the last night. That's the thing, is that I think rather than looking at if they're going to, dropping down or anything like that, we have to support them. And I know there's that mentality of it's not my team kind of thing, but you know, there's been that special dispensation, which I think is a good thing personally. I get the facts about what happened about bringing the two ways in the bone of contention, and now the bone of contention it has led to, with people saying, well, as soon as the injury, um, let me do a five. Can I do a five? Like Cardiff fans were saying a couple of weeks ago. And it's going to be that thing that's going to be a point of conversation now. Any injury situation, any ban or anything like that. And it's tough because it's not the case of good job, little buddy, like it is in Friends or anything like that, or just it's not a Rocky kind of mentality. It's 10 teams in a league. There's going to be winners, there's going to be losers, but everyone else is pushing within. Some teams have good form, some people have bad form. But this one here, Bath, a couple of results going to overtime and then a couple of victories playing teams that were in not the greatest of form, where they've collected their 2 points. And, it's a hope. I always think about it is if you're a player or an agent now coming in, you want to engineer a move that's good for you for the rest of the season to play, get minutes, put yourself in the shop window for the following season. If you're young enough, or maybe you're in a position where you don't want to be, that last hurrah, last couple of games playing in the UK hockey mainframe, or just get a bigger move, get a lot of goals, a lot of assists. And that's the thing, is how do you sell for someone to come in, that's a young Brit or someone that's an import that wants to play? Yes, they'll be playing, but they're playing short. They're playing in a position where most nights they're going to be under the cosh. And, that's going to be a tough sell for anyone. And from a management point of view, are they going to bring someone in? I know, obviously, seeing the bench with the experience that was on there as playing as well in this country, and also coaching in this country with Todd being there to help and support. Do I think they're going to make playoffs? No. Do I think they're going to get out the bottom 2 and make playoffs? No. But I just want to be in a situation where you look at them and go, I want them to get a few more wins. I want the games to be a lot closer. 3-2, 4-3, absolutely fine. Everything on the line, but it's a tough challenge for them because what are they going to do? But I think for them, they need the support. The fans home and away have showed their support and their numbers. And of course, we did have the video of Shane Owen and some people booing him and whatnot. And, you kind of do, because you look at it and you think how tough that must be, to go in, have a training for the week and have the building so down in morale, to just be that get up and go. Because, Fife, traveling wise, I know it's snowing and I know people are making a lot of posts about the snow and would teams be able to make it and whatnot. And it's, they fulfilled their fixtures. I'm going to be honest, and a trip as well to Guildford on a Sunday night, getting there and getting on the way back, the way that the snow has hit parts of this country is a testament to the team. Of course, they're going to fulfill the fixtures. They're not going to go side in that way, but to go there, to the results that they've got, the support that they've got, to then proceed to head back for the next set of games, because they're coming thick and fast. And no game, this is the thing, you look at it and you think they're playing Steelers this weekend. Steelers have hit a run of form again. But there's not a team that Fife can go to where you look at injuries, you look at the way it brings forward with, there's no team in that league now, bar them, that you could actually say that there's going to be a slip. I might eat my words. I might be in a position where I'm like, yeah, you shouldn't have said that. You just jinxed a team over the weekend. They're going to get a 4-point weekend. If they do, I'll eat my hat. I don't have a hat. at the moment, but I can bring a hat. I can buy a hat. But it's one of those things that you just want them to be a solid performance, get people through the door, and bring them into a situation where they can be the best of their ability. And if they do it, credit to them. And I want to see them get more wins. But who against and who they're going to bring through the door, that is where we want to do for them. So that is 5. So next question we got, which, it's one of those things, is are Sheffield Steelers back in the title race? I mean, you probably ask a few people and they'll probably say, were they actually out the title race? But, it's one of those things. They had a run of form that, from a team that was there from last season that, we've spoken about this, of everything that group had to endure, the successes that they had the previous year, winning all 3 trophies. I mean, if you ask Karina, she'll remind you again and again and again and again what happened, of course. But this year, the CHL, I mean, the quality of the teams that they're facing, the ability that week in, week out that those teams produce. And I mean, look at Liam Kirk. I mean, the stats that Haley posted today that, he's pretty much got, 28 and 29 so far this season. He's ripping it up in Germany. And that's a testament of a kid from Maltby doing as well as he did, playing for a team as well as they were. And you've got to obviously look at the Spengler Cup as well, 2 teams that the Steelers played in the CHL against Team Canada, being as good as they are. I mean, the CHL isn't one of those with good and bad teams. It's a tough one where, whoever you're facing on any given night is going to be a tough one. But you've got to give the success to Steelers. They played really well. Again, Cormier last year, what a sign he was coming through the door partway through the season. And their luck has obviously hit again. Maxim God has just been a breath of fresh air for the Steelers. He's kind of came in, his performances, his attitude, his knowing of the situation, of being a little bit of the needle. And I think, he is the Cormier of this year, because I've always said, if you could bring someone in mid-season, there's a reason that it hasn't quite worked at another place, or there's other mitigating factors that we're never fully aware of. Is some people, don't settle well, they don't want to put themselves in a great position, or they look for a move. But to come into a team that have been successful in the CHL, his performances obviously previous in the season, to come in as a mid-season pickup, it's a good pickup, as Todd would say in the Elite Series. Throwing it back to the Elite Series, but that's a good pickup. But, you've got to look at it and think, for someone to come in to this league to play as well as he had from assists and for goals, he's done very, very well. He's knocked a couple of people that were top 6 forwards and knocked them into the 3rd, 4th line. And the last couple of weeks, to kind of fit, Aaron Fox has kind of dropped it to 3 lines to the final 10 minutes of the game in the 3rd period, to just get that cohesion and everything like that. And he's, there's other names, Usula has been on form as well. Levens has started to hit the net. Shudra, whistle before his injury. Valley, his little spot in the power play as well. But, Baumas, Watling, you name these players for Steelers, and if it happens with the run-in, there's kind of comments here that I'll kind of put them all together as a mishmash. Obviously, a mishmash, if you're a Belfast Giants fan, is one of the guys, of course. But the positioning that Steelers have now, with the points being dropped by Belfast and Devils, and this is the thing that people have to remember, how short bench the Devils are at the moment. And, there's obviously looking at bringing players in. It seems every time they play a game, the look that they're having in that dressing room of someone either taking a knock, or the ability that they've got that's been lost for a week or two and trying to find the right fit and the right mould to come back in that room. But it's a couple of weeks away for the Conti Cup. I mean, the only team that's really been successful at the Conti Cup is Panthers, of course. But a lot of teams have kind of been there or thereabouts the last couple of years, and they should be proud of that. The fact that they've changed the way it is now has kind of put themselves in a position where you think the way that they're playing differently, they've got a break within the days, so that actually should help teams as well. But it's going to be tough. You know, there's 3 games against top opposition, being short benched. This is the thing where everyone's saying about, you know, Devils have that opportunity. And that's when I asked the question. If you didn't do the questions on the form, you know, I asked who's going to win the league, who's going to be in the playoffs, who's going to win the Challenge Cup. And the bulk of most people said that the league is the Devils. You know, hell of a lot of responses. So I appreciate everyone taking the time to get those responses in. A lot of people were pushing for the Devils as the winners of the league. And, you know, on present form, the way they're playing, you know, Sunday was another testament of it, how, you know, either being short bench that they were, the pushback from the start on Friday to then play on Sunday and get a narrow win and not be in a situation where a distinct kicking motion gets rightly disallowed by the officials, which we will be covering very shortly, is where you look at it and you think, you know, they're playing really, really well, but is the Conti Cup a bridge too far? And I hope it's not. You know, I really want to see Devils win the dinner tray. I mean, it'd be really awkward if they've changed that trophy since, and I didn't realise, but I digress. But you want teams to be successful. This is the thing that I've learned the last couple of years is I want the sport to grow. I want to look at American, Canadian hockey, European hockey, and see names and faces and go, I know that guy. And I want people to talk about UK hockey for the right reasons. And that's the key thing. You know, we've been very fortunate the last couple of years on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter now, or X, if digress, is that, you know, people not just from the UK, but, you know, from America and Canada are taking a view of UK hockey with the hits, the fights, and the drama and the shenanigans and the feistiness. You know, my New Year's resolution was still to say feistiness because I can't say fight because as soon as I put there's a fight happening in a game, a lot of people are very much like, that's not a fight. It turns into Crocodile Dundee, where this is not a knife, this is a knife. It's a fight. Either way, I'm posting it. It's fine, but leave a beaver. So I do feel that, you know, they are going to be in a top position there, which kind of leads into the question about injuries. Of course, just realised that Karina's put a teddy bear on my hair, a Valorant. She didn't mention it, did she? So I've had that in the entire photo that's been posted on social media. So obviously, if that's in the background and you've seen it, great, thank you. But yeah, it's one of those things. You know, injuries this year, it seems like we've been having an awful lot. And the thing is, I thought about this the other day, the type of fixtures that have happened. This is the first year with the new fixture system. So it's kind of took away from the double headers that they used to be, except Clan. Clan have 7,000 double headers at home this year. But a lot of teams, you know, that mixture, you know, you speak to people, would they love to work a Friday and a Sunday? It is one of those things, would they like Saturday, Sunday? Would they like to play Wednesday? Would they like to play Saturday? Would they like to play 2:00 in the morning on a Sunday and then play 5 a.m. on a Monday? There's so many variations, of course, anything like that. If you played rec hockey before, you know that anytime you can get ice, you play whatever time you want to. But that's the thing, is that a lot of these players, you know, you see these guys that play nowadays. I was very fortunate to have a conversation a couple of weeks ago. It was about old school hockey, you know, back in the day. And it was about alcohol and smoking and stuff like that. And it was just very much like, you know, all these guys with their protein powders, the gym, and the way that they're built, they're, you know, the physical specimens. And you'd be in a position where, you know, you speak to the old guys. I mean, old guys, no, not say the old guys, but the vintage guys. the classics, the boys, and then they're all like, "Well, where's the booze? Where's sitting for a fag before you can go back on the bench, or before a game going for a quick drink and a quick smoke in between periods and stuff like that?" And you kind of think about it, that these, for what it is, for the education that they have, the sports psychology and mental health, physical health, and putting their bodies on the line, the training that they do, these are probably the fittest guys that we can ever see. Is looking at the amount of roster spaces, the Brits, the imports, the changes that people can make, all these factor in, really, when you look at it and you think, where could you be in a position where, they're not going to get National Hockey League elite players, maybe Matt Remp, a couple of years the way he's going, he might be at the elite league. He might be the type of player that comes in, but, you think of how much money with everything is situations where you think about it and you go, it's tough. It's absolutely tough going and looking at it, thinking how these people do. I mean, I'm not the fittest guy, I'm not going to run a marathon anytime soon. I don't know how I would factor in with skates. I don't know if I'll just fall flat on my arse within 5 seconds of being on the ice. That's probably one thing that we can do for content for 2025, is we can have a betting game how long it takes for Stephen to need a penguin when he puts skates on one night. But that's the thing, is there's a lot of, this is the thing about injuries. There's so many people with upper body, lower body injuries. I remember a couple of weeks ago, someone sent me a post saying that someone obviously had a lower body injury, and the lower body injury was about his penis. So that was in America before you start. It's not obviously the UK. It was widely reported, so it's not a spoiler or anything in that respect. But no, it's tough. These guys are playing a lot of minutes. Christmas and New Year is always that thing. The injury reserve list, and that's probably something that hasn't been tapped in as much as it has been the last couple of years as well. Obviously, the limits that you've got and making these chopping and changes the way that the market is, you're kind of in a position really where, if you think about the teams now and the way that the league is with the amount of fixtures, we've just got to the stage where we're at the buy-in stage of the Challenge Cup to find out who the semi-finalists are, to know who's playing for February and stuff like that, is that everything's kind of dialed in now to the league. But is there a big jump? Does someone need to press the button in respect of making the chops and changes they need to do? If you look at Belfast, have they got the injuries or people out of sorts and out of form? Not really. Cardiff is an anomaly. They're playing really well. They're basically winning pretty much all they can. They've got the right people in the door. And once they get the players back on the bench and have these players back firing, and that's a scary proposition. Steelers, if you got to look at the injury list at the moment, Whistle's out, Dowd's out, Yana Tuin's out, Violio is out, DeFilippo is out. So many names there, but they're still, they've bounced back with 5 games. Panthers, they had Sam Herr out at New Year with Coventry. They've had a bit of unluckiness with injuries as well, but they've been winning in and around that. Same with, Flames as well. Consistency up and down the way that they've done it. Storm are coming up. Ren has kind of brought stability. They're not taking too many penalty minutes, so they're a little bit more there. Clan, doing really, really well. Blaze, still doing really well in the circumstances, to be fair. If you think about it, the only obviously anomaly in that conversation more than anything is Fife, and that's kind of brought about really from circumstances that some are in their control, bringing players in that from Kazakhstan and have to get used to the Scottish culture, and other variables with such like that. And that's a tough one, but we've covered that one. So the next question is, how do we stop people from moving when the puck is in motion? Well, Nottingham have the paddles. So as they said in The Simpsons, give them a paddling. Who said that? That's going to bug me now. But it was in The Simpsons. Everything's from The Simpsons nowadays. But that's the thing. I've been there, if I'm honest. I've seen both sides of it. You know, some teams are very switched on with the stewarding that they've got. Jasper. There we go, Jasper. It was Jasper. I should have known with the big beard, but yeah, that's a paddling. I mean, I can only go with the examples really from this season, and it's obviously Steelers. Is that, you know, the way that the Steelers has built their concourse is that they have the stewards as well. They have the people in and around the building. But what I've seen is that, you know, it's a mixed bag. You know, some people are very switched and very dialed on that if anyone kind of makes a slight move inwards or outwards, they're on them like a shot. Some have been puck watching themselves and not notice anything's happening until after the effect. But if you know, I'm going to be really terrible at describing this, but there's the lower tiers and the upper tiers at Sheffield, and they've got the stairwell. So rather than getting people to stand in the concourse, they're asking people to go onto the upper stairwell, standing by the stairwell from the steps to wait for the stop in play, to in turn then climb up to their seats and get there as quickly as possible. Downside of that is that anyone who's sitting from the first 2 or 3 rows of the upper tier can't see the game because there's someone who's standing there that's been told by the stewards to stand there. And obviously I saw someone get beer thrown at them because they were standing there, led to an ejection. At the time that I was there, it was a situation that could have been easily missed. You know, teams are putting on social media. Milton Keynes have been great with it, with the graphic that they've made about what are the do's and don'ts at the rink. Teams are doing that. You know, it's good to see the videos that are played during the game with the players involved saying, you know, abusive language, you know, whatnot. Do that. And, you know, we've all been there. I mean, the biggest testament I can say is I've seen it up close and personal. I've seen people hitting the head with a puck. Don't do it. You know, it's horrific, you know, seeing the damage that they can do in the blood and everything like that. And that's people just sitting there that's watching the game and actually watching the puck. It's just the way that the pucks drop. I mean, they hit, but circumstances like that of people jumping in and around. I mean, I know that the queues are big. You know, you want to buy the 50-50 tickets and you want to buy shirt off the back tickets. You want to get to the toilet as quickly as you possibly can. But is it at the risk of harming yourself and others by doing something like that? No. And I know I mean, for me, it's kind of one of those things because I have that detachment of being around. You know, if I'm honest, when I'm watching a game, I'm kind of recording, waiting for some drama to take place. But I know people that are literally drained in and drilled in to what they need with the game. That, you know, if they miss a second of the action, they'll literally look at you like you've just murdered their unborn child. I've seen it. And it's kind of surreal where someone who's looked over there and the evils that you get for getting out your seat or trying to move, or fruity language. Let's go with fruity language on that one. And it's tough. You know, it would be great to have videos out there, but, you know, you've got to credit. Teams do say a polite reminder. You know, Cardiff have done it as well to say, do not move when the puck is there. You know, I've also heard don't blow a whistle in the crowd when, you know, that happens while the game's on. Turn off your flash photography off your phone while the game's in play. I mean, some people, this is why I always joke about saying stuff that don't eat things on plastic packaging. But this is the thing, we're at Christmas and New Year. It's always going to hit at this particular time because you've seen the attendances post where so many people, families, friends, and Christmas parties and drunken nights out with let's go to the hockey kind of hit the forefront. Hopefully people stick around that want to go to the rest of the games for the rest of the season, but you are going to have people in and around the building that don't know the first thing. They don't know the rules. They don't know the do's and don'ts. And then that's probably one of the biggest takeaways that you can do. If, for example, you look at the playoff final in the next couple of months, which seems scary that we're almost getting to that point, is you're not going to see that because if you look at the Elite League playoffs, most people are drunk Saturday morning anyway from the night out and the Friday at bunkers and other places around the city centre. But you know, you're within the group of people. You're in your own blocks of your own fans. You're there. You've how much you paid for a train, plane, automobile, hotel. You know exactly what the do's and don'ts are. I mean, it's a tough one. we want to grow the sport. We want to bring as many people we can into the building. But you've got to educate those people that are there. And, if I sit next to someone and they don't know, I'm happy to tell them what is happening at any particular second. Sometimes I don't even know, which is a tough one, because obviously sometimes the decisions can just be which kind of leads me into the next question. And probably just actually not a question, but a thank you, really. There's plenty of people that have done it from time to time. Anthony's probably an advocate as well from Coventry. But Dan at Devils and Jono at Panthers, is that there's been situations that have happened in games where the art of the commentary is to, people will see visually what's happening, but be the descriptor of what's happening, and in short bursts of trying to put through and convey so much things that are happening, informative. That needs to be informative. That needs to be in the moment, quick and punchy. And, there was different situations, with the penalty shot with Lacko, that, Jono and Dan was pretty much straight on there at the Panthers commentary. And of course, Dan at Devils, the goal was the kick in motion. We posted it. Deleting's cheating, so we didn't delete it. But then he came out, pretty much and straight said, this is the rules. Luke from the league as well, straight up with the rules of where that fits within the video review and everything like that. And that's probably the biggest thing, is that from a vacuum point of view, is the absence of knowledge kind of brings about thoughts and opinions. Everyone's going to have a thought and opinion. Everyone's going to have a feeling of how that looks, of what it needs to be. So it's really good. I want to credit them for, being quick on the draw, telling us the information that we need to know, because people will go on the internet and start bashy, shouty, quickie. I don't know why I said it like that, but that's what they do. With everything the good that happens, there is a positive and negative reaction. And of course, in sports teams vernacular, you're going to be in a situation where, if the decision goes your way, great. We've said this before, is that, if someone gets done and they're on your team, you kind of like, oh, that's okay, that's acceptable. If it's against your team, you scream bloody murder, because they're in a position where you're just like, don't do that to my boy. That's my boy. And then it's just like that, really. So you do it. And that is, the thing is, you can do it in hindsight. High is a brilliant thing. You've got that 5-10 minutes to slow it all down and put it into a situation, say, this happened, here's the replays, we can give you as much information we can. But, for doing commentary with the Lions years ago, and it's tough. You put yourself in a position that, if you've ever done it, if you ever think about it, same with, everyone says, well, try and referee a game and try and do it. If you ever get the chance, if you ever watch one of these shows where you can't get the commentary for rights, or it's in a different language that you don't understand, is put it on mute and try and commentate it. Try and see the numbers that sometimes are very distorted on the back of the jersey, or you can't see them on the arms, and trying to get all that information in such a small ball while the puck is moving at such a high volume that you're trying to explain something at this end of the ice, and then the next thing it's over on this end. There's been a whistle. You can't see the hand signals. You can't see what's happened. You didn't see the hit. And trying to explain that to every single person that's happening, and sounding right on the time, and sound reassured with exactly what you're saying. It's tough. And that's the thing, is that, you see the comments about, it's a different kettle of fish, if I'm honest, where you say about personality. I've always been to the nature, if I ever did it again, commentary, I would cheer both teams, like, yeah, go teams, home and away. But it's tough. You're being employed by said people to do a job. Is you don't want to sound like you're doing the shipping forecast and you're boring as anything and not completely disinterested, and call the puck a ball, or just go off a wild tangent about pork pies or something like that. If these have happened in hockey, I do apologise, but it's a really tough situation to do it, and we're very fortunate to have these people that take the time, the energy, and the effort. A lot of people do this stuff for, I wouldn't say the goodness of their heart, but there is a lot of kind of things that are brought in that it takes a lot of time and effort away from people's family and support and everything and do what they need to do. I mean, we were very good because the previous year, if I'm honest, I did a lot of things in hockey where it was mine and Karina's first Christmas. And, I'm thankful she stayed with me because I was kind of completely drawn into what I was doing hockey wise, where I just couldn't, even Christmas Day, I wasn't switched off. I was kind of preparing for Boxing Day and everything that was going ahead, content and getting calls and getting emails, and I wasn't completely switched on. And I learnt. I got older. I got wiser. I actually gave my time off, and Christmas Day, I only did that for most of the day, and didn't do it all of the day. So I'm very appreciative. And that is the thing, is that a lot of people can do their holidays. People have their detox in the summer. But for us, it's pretty much try and keep the hockey ball rolling, get the interviews in, get the content in, hopefully get more articles in and get people looking at hockey 365 days a year. There's no off season for us in the sense that we do it. Maybe I should take a holiday. Maybe that's why I've got so many grey hairs, but it's good fun. It's great seeing that little video from some rec hockey team in Canada where someone's gone off on the referee and then fall flat on his arse, trying to be the big man. Finding a video like that is kind of the bread and butter. So, question is, so it was brought in with, teams being so close together this so far in the season, is that the question is, since no team has had a particular run yet, is the title race still open? And do you think Nottingham have a big chance in the form that they're in at the moment? Which kind of draws me into the first point, is that, thank you very much for everyone who voted for, coach, netminder, defenseman, forward of the month. And yes, 3 out of 4 was Panthers. A little bit of a break. There's about 60 votes in it between Ryan Bednar getting the win against Lucas Bryan, but fully deserved for Lucas Bryan. Really happy for him to get it. Kind of him to take the time out to share it on his social media and celebrate it. Same with Clan doing it and Panthers as well for their respective people. And, this is the thing. There's probably points. We'll go on to what I think about Panthers and their opportunity there, is that we do this vote. We've had this vote for a couple of months now. Month 1, I was waiting for a lynch mob with the pitchforks and flames at me because it was a clean sweep for the Steelers. And obviously then we did the non-Steelers award, which was won by Sheffield Steel Dogs, Sam Tremblay. And I do appreciate everyone who voted for that from the Steelers fan base, which kind of threw it on people, really, with the circumstances. We had a couple of months, Coventry got it, Kevin Moore, Robson. And then this is the month that there hasn't really been any communication really about, bar why Jarrett Fisk wasn't on Facebook, and people on Facebook saying that votes shouldn't count on Instagram and Twitter. It should only be for Facebook votes, but all social medias are allowed. The votes are greatly appreciated from wherever walk of life you've gone, whatever social media channel you enjoy. We'll always take your votes in consideration because that's the thing. The nominees are based on you. It would be a world where if I just sat down and said, this is my coach of the month, this is my player of the month, as Jason the Puck, I just feel that's not fair because, it's an undue pressure on me and it's kind of me forcing my opinions on you. This is a vote for the fans, by the fans. There's always going to be disagreements. There is always going to be, I'd love it if more National League players were included in that because it'd be nice to see those players brought in. And I know there's always that inclination of bigger fan bases and everything like that. But if you look at the last month, I said this, where Steelers didn't have the greatest December. And, there was a few, some people kind of threw in a few names from Steelers, absolutely fine. But if anyone can tell me if Lucas Bryan wasn't deserving of that award as netminder, Danny Stewart, coach, wasn't deserving of that award. Cooper Zach, not. Dietrich as well, Hembrandt as well, was not deserving of that award, then that's fine, But they got the majority of the votes and we were happy for them to put it through there. And I was happy that I wasn't getting messages like I have before about so and so should have won and not that. And it's really good news to know that the curse does not exist, because we've had the last couple of months that when the coach of the month gets the award, the following 2 games they get a 0 point weekend. So it's actually been broken because and he got 2 points. So it's kind of non-existent, which is good. So Panthers, I mean, performance-wise and points that they put in, they had the most opportune time to play the Steelers in the form that the Steelers were in. And, people talk about streaks. And you've got to look at it. I mean, I was having a conversation the other day about the Elite Series. And, I mean, of course, there was pre-season trophies. But since that Elite Series win, it's just been a situation where they've just been nowhere near. There's been so many managerial changes within the organization. People haven't stuck around longer in the building. They've always had one season and done. There's been some fan favorites that have come through that have kind of gone by the wayside. But this year, let's look at it back in September, where the coaches on social media was pretty much Danny wasn't up to the job. Why is Danny Stewart been signed? Should have had Kevin Moore. Is you don't really hear much from these people anymore. This is the thing, that there is a lot of hockey when you had those comments to have been played. There's still a hell of a lot of hockey still to be played. Is anything can change, injuries, form, signings that kind of just take teams to the next level. Form, injuries come through, where you look at it and you think, this has probably been the most exciting that the Panthers have been in the last couple of years to watch play. People were like, has Sam Hurst still got it? These returning players, have they got it? These new players, have they got it? And so far, they've actually had a really good time of the year. And I remember, December was that kind of Panthers' Achilles heel. I mean, obviously the other months as well were their Achilles heel as well. But there was just that kind of thing that results during the December months was just non-existent. And, history kind of shows us one thing. I mean, JJ Fernie kind of put it in perspective where he said about, the percentages that Steelers have had of victories and how long it would take for Panthers to reach the same level of percentages. I think it'd be 2040, he said, about moving through that. There is that gap that, this is the thing that, there is going to be an article in the next couple of weeks where the realism has to be that, this whole divide between Panthers and Steelers is a big divide. You look at numbers through the door, number through the building, and everything like that. But from hockey point of view, you look at the quality, bar that 2019 side that everyone kind of looks back from the Steelers that was kind of there 17, 18. There is always going to be a team within that bracket where you compare and contrast. But you look at the victories, you look at the results. The key thing is about winning trophies, as people would say. But there is a gulf. And that is kind of a surreal and scary thing that, people want their team to be the best that they can be financially, signing-wise. There's so many factors that kind of bear into it and be bringing in. But you've got to be honest that there are teams within that group, from an arena point of view, of course, there is a situation where you've got Belfast, you've got Steelers, you've got to look at Devils. I mean, obviously, I know that, arena teams, different kind of budgets and everything like that. Let's not go into that conversation today. You are in a position where you look at it and you think, where do Panthers sit in that kind of grouping? Really? Because I've said this, that, the top 3 will be some variation of Devils, Steelers, and Giants. This isn't me like trying to reinvent the wheel. This is me actually saying, it's let's not by the type of players, the quality that they've got. dictates that that is the way the situation is going to be year in, year out. There is always going to be that plucky young team that's going to be there fourth or pushing along parts of the season, most of the season, and just missing out. And that's where, right now, I think, obviously, given the circumstance of the last couple of years, not looking at last year, of course, please, but the years and years before that, because I've seen those years before and before that, where, if we're honest, Panthers have underperformed. They have. And no one wants to see that. Okay, some people want to see that. You can name names who probably want to see that, if I'm honest. But this is the thing, the more and more I do it, and the more and more I see it, is I hate this kind of thing where I say that, I'm kind of neutral. And, people get it. It's a family sport. That's the next question. So I'm going to look forward to that one. But yeah, I'm kind of in that position where you look at it and you think, you see the good and the bad, where you look at it and you think, this is just where teams need to grow and develop. And this is what you want, Belfast celebrating the 25th year, Devils, the way year in, year out, the recruitment they do, you've got to look at the kind of players that they bring in. And I love when they do the rodeo and, the bits, so many things that they've done, like the inside the Devils, inside the Cardiff Devils. That's still obviously one of the big videos that kind of built the rink tour. The rink tour would not have existed if it wasn't for Inside the Cardiff Devils, really, the way I see it, if I'm honest. And you kind of look at it and, you look at these teams. I mean, Clan, we had the big laugh and the joke about the massive Glasgow Clan and Clantastic Christmas and We're the Purple Army. That new song that I found is still on my Spotify. So that might actually be Spotify Rap 2025. One of the spoilers. At least it's not Taylor Swift, so, which is good. But it's one of those things. You look at those teams, it's terrible. You look at it from a football analogy. Liverpool, Manchester United. People were sick of that normality, Arsenal. And then they started to see teams poking around like a Newcastle, Blackburn, Leicester, Man City at the beginning. And you just look at it and you think, this is what you want. Would it be a great season to see someone win the playoffs that haven't won it for a very long time? And then you think, I mean, I'd love to be at playoffs. I'd love to be at playoffs and see Storm in the Final Four, Fife in the Final Four, Blaze in the Final Four. And, these are big teams within the realms of UK hockey. Of course they are. And you've got to kind of look at the National League. I mean, everyone was kind of, Steel Dogs versus Leeds, MK versus Romford. And it's actually good to see that Romford will be in a final. You want it every so often. I mean, the caveat would be is that first final of Challenge Cup where I went to Belfast for the first time, and it was Belfast versus after Fife beat Sheffield with that penalty shot from Johansson. They didn't have a good ride of that one. But there's 10 teams. It'd be nice to, obviously, the status quo, change it up a wee bit. And you do it, but it's not, you don't want to do it by some kind of puck luck or something, a referee's decision or anything down the line. But you actually want it to be, I'd love it for a team to come and recruit 3 or 4 players that just hit the ball running. Young Brits, that'd be perfect. That's going to be the next 3 to 5 years, the next generational GB players playing in this country, upsetting the status quo of those normal top 3, top 4 teams being pushed week in, week out, because that's the only way that the sport's going to grow. And then, of course, leads me into one of the other questions about the TV deals. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. You've got to look at it that any revenue that comes through from a TV deal would have to be shared equally in a pot. And let's not beat around the bush that there is probably a lot of people and particular teams that would have a bigger catchment of particular games and fixtures that are being paid that are probably they put a fixture on, full house, depending on how much of attendance is. I mean, look at the weather. I mean, I didn't go to the hockey at the weekend because the snow that was coming didn't affect us in the end, but there's probably loads of people that wasn't going to go to a game just on the off chance of some snow infecting it. And, if it's on, if I'm honest, I mean, I don't watch football as much as I used to, but if it's on, if cricket's on, if Formula One's on, if darts are on, um, if jousting is on, medieval jousting is on, 9 times out of 10, I will probably watch it. And I always find that any TV deal or anything like that is that, Nottingham did it with Notts TV and the highlight packages, that everything's ready available. The biggest thing that I've always said is one thing I would love is that I remember years ago is that they used to sell the DVDs, they used to sell the VHSs. Anyone who's listening to this that doesn't know what a VHS is, ask your parents. But they used to sell them, game highlights with the interviews at the end. So they did it during lockdown. That was probably one of the big things. Is during lockdown, they had games to watch and watch-alongs and stuff like that. The biggest thing that I think, because I was very fortunate that I had a couple of years out the sports for other factors in life, and people talk to me about instances or games in particular, and 9 Days of Madness or stuff like that, and GB games that history like Ben O'Connor's penalty shot, and you just think you can certain things you can find. And you've got to credit people Hockey Fights UK that just kind of throw these on this day in 2009 that's kind of grainy, rattly VHS video. And it's just like, I'd love to watch some of these games, these moments. I know we got in trouble from certain people a couple of years ago because I kept posting the Christmas videos. Of course, Belfast with Craig Peacock and whatnot, and Manchester Storm's videos and Steelers, Rockstar and everything like that. And you just think these are moments in history. So many new fans that have probably been embraced to the idea of hockey that have been brought to the table of hockey. And that's probably one of the biggest things that we find is that, there's so many people that are joining us on social media now that are getting involved in the bingo card and getting involved in games that, someone asked us about who would our top 25 Elite League players would be. And so many people were just, new fans that only knew the last couple of years, which is absolutely fine. I've not been the hockey fan for the longest time in the world. And you'd be in a situation where it would just be great. You see these jerseys at different games that you see everyone with the last couple of years, but you see ones that are from 10, 15 years ago. Players that have their numbers retired, or they come to games and get welcome back. They're in the program is there, and there's probably so many stories, so many factors that you could speak to these guys about games that happened 10, 15 years ago. I still watch on YouTube the old Sky Sports highlights package, and see teams that are no longer with us anymore, that kind of left by the wayside and are no longer there. And that's probably the biggest question, is that it's not to prejudice anyone who doesn't know, but there's probably a lot of people that interact with us on social media that don't know of a player, don't know of an incident, don't know of a team. And so many historical moments that would be lovely to see. And I know I've said about the Netflix of ice hockey that it would never work in the sense of having people having a paid subscription service or having that information readily available and the time and the constraints it would take for those people to do it. Because that's the thing, is time is a big factor. Biggest thing is having the time to do what needs to be done. To bring this stuff with either commentary, licensing laws, or keep them up to, and actually the quality of them, because some places filmed some games on a potato. Hasn't changed much now, some places, but that's a different conversation for a different day. There we go. So looking at the questions now, so the question about the refereeing being improved is probably one of the factor, and I just have to obviously start that with the caveat is that we're very quick and easy to discuss how referees can get it right, can get it wrong. are very wrong in the flow of the game and make those decisions. But we've probably seen factors over the last couple of weeks where they've obeyed the letter of the law. They've actually given some good performances in. They've let games flow. They've kind of been in there, made sure nothing's escalated, and put themselves in. These are people that, if we're honest, aren't doing refereeing as a 9 to 5 job Monday to Saturday. They are in a position that they do it when they can on the top of jobs that they already do. They're very fortunate that at the beginning of the season that they do have the situation in Nottingham where the referees get all together and have conversations about the new rule changes and look through videos and assessments and everything like that, and fitness, and all being together and being in a position where they get them ready for the season ahead. Do they do them throughout the season through Skype and Zoom and whatnot? Hopefully they do. And converse, very fortunate. I'd love to speak to a referee and get their thoughts. I know that it's a very tough one because of the level of questioning that you would need to give them mid-season, because you wouldn't want them to talk about particular instances and different factors. But, it all mixes in and always comes back to being in circumstances when you just, we're not enamored with as many referees in this country that we'd like from a top tier. And I know that people have the thoughts about the same referees over every given night in different catchment areas of who does what and where. But they can't play without a referee. We've all been there. We've all been in a position where we've agreed and disagreed and sweared into a black and blue with as many different swear words that you can think of at any given time about a referee's decision, if it's right or wrong, or they missed a call. And, we're guilty of it sometimes, is that we post, what's your thoughts on this, which, if we're honest, kind of brings about a positive but also a negative connotation, really, where you think about it and you go, okay, well, we're highlighting someone's not seeing something and magnifying it. But this is the thing, every sport has it, but we can kind of control in the respect of how it's done. But you look at football, I mean, the thing is that if an incident happens in football, it's in this micro cataclysm of information straight away, where people will just look at it and go, it'll be slowed down, fast forward, zoomed in, zoomed out within 30 or 50 different channels, programs, or anything like that. And they have a bigger echo chamber than they already do. So you do it, you think about it, and you go, okay, well, sometimes you have to talk about the good and bad in sport. And that's probably the biggest thing for 2025 is let's celebrate the successes in this sport, because we have done a hell of a lot. And the last couple of years, making sure that hockey can the best that it can be, and that's all fans. You look at the numbers over the Christmas and New Year period, and it's amazing to see. And that's probably one thing that we just want to really end it on for this week's show is, we've done coach, netminder, defenseman, forward. One thing that we really wanted to do, and we did over the weekend, was the Unsung Hero Award. And, I know obviously people as individuals were voted for from different organisations. It's just one of those things that week in, week out, we're at hockey, they don't play because of the equipment people. There's no music without the DJs. There's no social medias without the social media team. There's no tickets sold without the volunteers. But also that's the parents from an early age is they're driving their kids hundreds and hundreds of miles. They're spending their hard-earned cash on equipment to get the next generation of hockey player. They're making those trips, listening to every story, having the smells that they have to endure week in and week out, that they have to try and get better with. And it's tough. I think that's something that we want to do throughout the season. Of course, there will be bid of the year and hair of the year at the end and mascot of the year and everything. But I just think it's good to give back of the people that you don't normally hear about, but deserve the recognition about, as opposed to someone who gets it week in week out for scoring a hattie, making a penalty shot save, dropping the gloves, and well, even a Gordie Howe. But there's so many factors that of all those people, and some people were very kind to vote us as unsung heroes in our own vote. I mean, it would have been a fix if we actually won it, but it's a credit. I've always said that we wouldn't be here for the people that take the time, the energy, and the effort to help us on our way. And that's probably the biggest thank you from 2024. And thank you 2025 for your continued support and everything, which kind of leads me into what I normally say is that thank you very much for watching this show. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Can't believe I'm going to be 38 this, no, 37 this year, and I'm still saying like and subscribe like a YouTuber. But don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify. This show will be on in the next couple of days on Spotify, so if you're listening to it on Spotify, hello, love to see you and thank you. Come and join us on a Monday. If not, watch it in your own convenience. You can watch it at the gym, you can watch it as you go to bed, as you wake up, whatever. Don't forget our MySpace, our Bebo, MSN Messenger, but also we thank you for every comment that you make and every information, every video you send, every photo you send is greatly appreciated. Next couple of days, we'll be looking at obviously Elite Hockey Manager as well, because we've got an idea with the Eastside Hockey Manager. One of the guys is going to be looking at that to do a season for us. You pick the team, you pick the players, and we play the league and see if we can win in our first attempt. That's something coming down the line. I've got a few articles out the next couple of days, so enjoy as well. And fingers crossed, this week we will have our top 25 Elite League players of all time, just to show you and see how that looks. But we do appreciate your time. Like and follow. Have a lovely week, and I'll see you guys on the other side.